Good evening, many bosses.
Good evening, Mr. CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that our live streaming is working, and we're just seeing that Councillor Hahn is just rejoining us to see if her camera will work this time.
And it won't. It's not working.
Do you see the little start camera, stop camera icon?
Yeah, you can't, it won't uncheck itself. Like you can't get the X to come off of it.
Well, we can certainly hear you clearly. Is that acceptable to you, Councillor Hahn?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine with me.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, it is 5:31 and our live streaming and recording is working, so you can start your meeting whenever you wish.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that we have quorum. I call this meeting, regular council meeting for Monday, May the 3rd, into session. And we have, the wrong one, approval of agenda. Upon looking at the agenda, is there any comments on it? See none, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that the agenda for the May 3rd, 2021 regular meeting of council be adopted. As there was no discussion, I'll start the vote with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Mr. Mayor, that does bring you to disclosure of pecuniary interests and the general nature thereof.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to declare? Madam Clerk, I see none.
Thank you. I have so noted. Mr. Mayor, that does bring you to item 4.1.1. This is presentations, and your first presentation would be from the Fire Chief, Lynn Berner.
Okay. Mr. Fire Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, SLT, and members of the viewing audience or public. Just before I start into my numbers here, just have some very positive news to update you. As the public health has upgraded the MCC from a 12 vaccination site to a 24 vaccination site. So it'd be a maximum output for that building, and we're scheduled to operate on May the 16th for 7 straight days through the 22nd. So very good numbers. And as the month goes through, we'll see the numbers drop from 55 to 50 to 40. And then eventually by the end of May, we should be at every adult over the age of, or 18 and older will be able to have the ability to book an appointment for vaccination. I'm not going to say there's that many vaccinations available, but you will have the ability to book. So as of today, Pelham has a total case of 535, 141 active. The Niagara region, we have 14,132, 96 today. Total active is 3,281, which is the number is not entirely correct because of the resolved number is not catching up because of the lack of staff for follow-up to find out who has recovered. So the number is a bit lagging. It should be lower. And our total deaths are at 395. Ontario, province-wide, 473,901. Out of those resolved, 428,786. We have a total death count of 8,118. Ontario hospitals admissions have worked their way down a little bit from last week. We're at 1,925. Of those, 889 are in ICU, and of those, 611 are on ventilators. Across the country, at 1.2 million, just over 1.2 million. Resolved just over 1.1 million, and at deaths we're at 24,318. Niagara region case doubling time is moved up to 80 days. Our reproduction number has gone down slightly to 0.8. Our positivity number is at 9.5%. Public health is currently working with 20 active outbreaks, they've resolved 327. As far as the region goes, infection spread, close contact with confirmed cases represents 65.5%, community spread 22.6%, unknown 9.5%, and travel 2.4%. Vaccinations, Niagara has delivered 186,022, which is 36.2% of our population. Ontario, we're at 5.3 million. Canada-wide, we're just a shade under 14 million. Our provincial indicators, reproduction rates at orange, positivity rates at red, new case count per 100,000 populations at red, new cases daily averages at red, hospital admissions daily averages in red, new cases unknown spread is in orange. As I said earlier, the province continues to lower the age eligibility for vaccinations. So we're hoping by the end of May that all adults will be eligible for making an appointment. Other than that, that's the end of my report. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I see our Councillor Stewart has her hand up. Councillor?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the fire chief. You said there's a 36.2% vaccination rate. Is that the total population or the adult population?
It's the population, or the 36.2 represents the eligible or the 18 and older population.
Okay, thank you.
Not seeing anything else. I'd like to comment, Chief. I think it's great that our new cases on a provincial number, last week, I believe we had 4,600. And the fact now that the last couple of days have been in the 3,500, so we've dropped that number over 1,000 by over 1,000 new cases a day. That's got to, I would think, show up by the end of the week in our hospital numbers. Would you agree on that?
I could speculate. I guess that they would go down. I don't not public health that really runs those numbers. The good thing is if we look at the provincial indicators, our reproduction rate is below 1, and we always talked about anything under 1, the virus would work its way out of the system, and anything over 1, it populates. And there's a few other things that are reducing slowly. So I would anticipate that we've plateaued and we're going to start to work our way down.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the numbers are headed in the right direction, finally. Thank you for the report, Chief.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from B. Limburner Fire Chief and Community Emergency Management Coordinator for information. For the vote, I would start with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. That does bring us to our next presentation from Mr. David Cribbs, CAO.
Mr. CAO, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. The critical announcement came from Chief Limburner, and it was really appropriate that it came from Chief Limburner, being the doubling in size of our vaccination clinic and then the fairly large number of vaccination dates we have upcoming. I just wanted to say that getting to this point took a lot of staff time and resources, and I would be remiss if I don't point out the town solicitor's role. We had staff from Public Works. We had obviously quite a number, a director, a supervisor, at least a lead hand from RCW. But every team needs a leader, and our fire chief has been the leader on this file. And to understand the perspective, we will be the largest vaccination site, and there'll be 2 others the same size as what's happening and what will be happening in the MCC, but there will not be a bigger one. We are not the largest community in Niagara. We're going to be able to offer as many vaccinations as St. Catharines and Niagara Falls. And it's really because of this spectacular facility and a lot of very good work and advocacy on our part. But ultimately, I just wanted to give some public kudos to everyone involved. But absolutely, Bob Limburner's been the leader on that, and I thought that deserved pointing out. And to our residents, I want to say, we know we have 7 dates coming up, and there'll be more in the future beyond that. At 24 people at a time, we're able to do more than 2,000 a day. And for those who haven't had a chance to go to the MCC, you're not really allowed or welcome to sort of stroll around after the shot. We need you to come and go. But I do hope you get a look around on your way to and from the shot, and maybe think about coming back to it when we reopen, because we're going to have a lot of good programming, and it's a really spectacular facility. And the fact we have that facility means we're really able to help lead Niagara region out of this pandemic. And that's what I have to say this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Mr. CAO. Any questions or comments from members of council? And I see Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to make one other very important public announcement. I was talking to one of the large local pharmacies, and they also have the vaccine and are giving out the vaccine. And I also talked to a local doctor, and he also has the vaccine. So now, not only do we have the MCC, but we have a local pharmacy and at least one local doctor that I know of that is making those shots available. So there's lots of opportunities for lots of people to go on the site and get booked through the government system.
Thank you for that, Council, for that information, Councillor Hildebrand. And you're right. The more opportunities there are out there to get a needle, the faster the job gets done. Again, anyone else comments or questions? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from D. Cribbs, Chief Administrative Officer for information. For the vote, I would begin with Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin,
Yes.
and that carries. Mr. Mayor, that brings you to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the adoption of minutes. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. 1. SC-07-2021 Special Council Minutes, April 19th, 2021, and C-07/2021 Regular Council Minutes, April 19th, 2021. Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to ask for errors or omissions.
Oh, thank you. And councillors, after seeing the minutes, and does anyone have any questions or comments on those minutes? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you. This vote will start with Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand,
Yes.
Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin,
Yes.
and that carries. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 7 on the agenda, in which a councillor can lift an agenda item from the consent agenda if they wish to change or alter the presented resolution. If you'd like to ask if any councillors would like to lift any agenda items.
Thank you. After viewing the consent agenda items, does any councillor wish to lift any particular item? Councillor Hildebrand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 8.5.1.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors, any other agenda items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have so noted that 8.5.1 will be considered separately. That does bring us to the consent agenda, and I would have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the May 3rd, 2021 council agenda be received, and that recommendations contained therein be approved, save and except item 8.5.1 as applicable. Mr. Mayor, if there was any items that councillors just wish to speak to, now would be the time to do that.
Okay, and before I turn to council, I would like to speak to 8.4.1, the Seniors Month proclamation.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
Just like to say that this valuable members of our society definitely deserve not only the month, obviously the whole year, the great volunteerism that this group provides, to say nothing of the babysitting of grandkids in their own families. So I would definitely glad that this is coming, that this month is indeed the Seniors Month, and I will be more than happy to sign the proclamation. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any other items that any councillor would like to comment on without the actual lifting? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For this, I will start the vote with Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
That carries. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, we are at the lifted agenda items, and as indicated, Councillor Hildebrandt has lifted 8.5.1. If he wishes, he could speak to that item now.
Okay, Councillor Hildebrandt.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make an amendment that the motion be amended to include that the Council for the Corporation of the Town of Pelham endorse and support the resolution from the City of Kitchener regarding Planning Act timelines, and that the Town Clerk be directed to circulate a copy of this resolution to the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, local MPs and MPPs, AMO, the City of Kitchener, and local area clerks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any discussion, comments from other council members?
Sorry, just.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam
I
Clerk.
apologize, Mr. Mayor. I do have that moved by Councillor Hildebrandt. To get it on the floor, he would need a seconder.
Oh,
If he
okay.
has a seconder, I believe that was Councillor Stewart.
Okay, great. Now we can discuss it.
Most certainly, you can now discuss it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I see Councillor Hildebrandt. Do you want to speak to this then?
Yeah, I think it's important that we endorse the motion that the City of Kitchener made, because the timelines are drastic that Bill 138 is recommending. They're going down from 7 months to 4 months for official plan amendments, from 5 months to 3 months for zoning plan amendments, from 6 months to 4 months for plans of subdivision. The amount of pressure this places on planning departments in every municipality is huge. Planning, I'm not saying it was easier in the past, but obviously it's becoming more complex with all the rules and the density requirements. And they're putting all this pressure back on municipalities and the planning organization to accomplish these goals. And then you've got LPAT sitting at the end. Obviously, if you don't meet the goals, venture to say some of these developers will use that as a tool to appeal against us. So it puts us in a very difficult position. So we need to do all we can to support our planning department to try and give them as much time as they need to properly provide for planning, which we know is a complex issue. That's where all the issues seem to arise from. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hildebrandt. Any other comments on this amendment? Not seeing any. I would like to ask our chief planner, Ms. Weens, if she could comment. I was wondering, has the government sought out consultations before instituting these new timelines? Ms. Weens?
Mr. Mayor, through you, so these new timelines are what is currently in place. There were changes done to the Planning Act about 2 years ago that put these timelines in place. There was very limited consultation. There was some, but it was, very limited at the time. And many planning jurisdictions and authorities commented against the reduction to those timelines. And at the time, I know the region of Niagara provided comments on behalf of all of Niagara. We were speaking as one voice, and did not support the reduction in those timelines. So this motion is asking the province to reinstate back those previous timelines.
Okay, thank you. And one last question, if I may, Ms. Weens. Have we always been inside the new guidelines? Have we had any that the developer or applicant was able to take us to LPAT because we didn't meet the deadlines?
Mr. Mayor, through you, we have not had a situation where an applicant has appealed to LPAT because we haven't met those timeframes. Generally, we work with the developers and try to move things along as quickly as possible. That being said, it's impossible to meet those timelines. Oftentimes, what happens when you get an application, you circulate it, you get the comments back, and it requires some amendment or revisions to the plans or what is being proposed. And even applicants can't turn around changes to their plans quickly enough for us to get it back and meet those timelines. So the reality is it's extremely difficult to meet those timelines. The only times that we're able to do that are for very straightforward and simple zoning amendment applications. For example, an APO rezoning, we can meet those timelines, and some other very simple ones. But as Councillor Hildebrandt alluded, planning has become more and more complex, and it's not just planning staff that are involved in the process. It involves public works staff, corporate services staff, and RCW staff in terms of reviewing development applications and getting feedback and input. And so, it's a multifaceted process. It also involves getting comments from outside agencies, in many cases that are not within our municipalities, such as the region and the MPCA. And they too have time constraints and staffing resource issues that can result in delays at times. So it's very, very difficult to meet those timelines.
Okay, thank you for those words, Madame Weens. Any other comments before we take the vote on the amendment? I see Councillor Hahn, you're back on video. Welcome.
The video, I just switched computers. The video just wouldn't work on the others.
There we go. Great. Okay, any other comments, questions? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, this would be the vote for the amendment. To begin the vote, I would start with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you. The amendment passes. Therefore, we will now vote on the motion as amended. Unless there's any discussion.
Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will begin the vote again with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
And Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
You already asked me. I said yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, therefore it carries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring us to item number 10.2.1, and this is a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Stewart. And it is be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0088 Municipal Grant Allocation for Information, and that Council approve the 2021 municipal grant allocations of $6,948 waived facility fees, $30,700 cash allocations, and $10,600 of estimate in-kind labor requests as outlined in the 2021 municipal grant summary. Through you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay. After viewing the agenda item, any comments or questions on this item? Councilor Olson, did I see your hand, or were you just making an adjustment?
No, I was just making an adjustment.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any other councilor have any comments or questions? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote will begin with Councilor Wink,
Yes.
Councilor Hahn,
Yes.
Councilor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councilor Kaur,
Yes.
Councilor Olson,
Yes.
Councilor Stewart,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. That does bring us to item 10.2.2, and I have a motion put forth by Councilor Hahn, seconded by Councilor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2021-0088, proposed purchase and installation of video streaming equipment for MCC for information, and that Council approve the purchase and installation of video streaming equipment for the Accursi Room in the Meridian Community Center, and that $51,000 be funded from the new 2021 COVID-19 recovery funding for municipal programs, and $32,000 be funded from the carry forward capital funds in IT-01-20. Through you, Mr. Mayor, for debate.
Great. Any questions or comments on this agenda item? Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the treasurer. The question I've got to ask, I understand coming from the IT budget, that's an internal budget and that's totally acceptable. But the grant money being used as a COVID fund, how technical are the qualifications with regards to using that money as a COVID fund initiative?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as you know, that no one can use the MCC, so the video streaming is absolutely critical for the programming, for the senior programming, the youth programming, and that's why it ties directly into the COVID funding. So COVID is not allowing the MCC to be open to the public, but yet there's a lot, but right now we are receiving a seniors grant to provide senior programming. As you know, we are a designated senior hub at the MCC. So this will fulfill the opportunities for the RCW department to provide programming for the seniors. And the director of RCW can add towards what type of programming we can do.
Ms. Van Ravensway?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The sky's the limit. Basically, any programming, whether it's fitness programming, whether it is theater or participation in seminars, any speaker series. The main idea of this is with seniors, it is a high risk at this time, and some choose to come out. For instance, our Brock Fit program, it was full right up until we had lockdown. But there are other seniors that, would choose to only be in their homes. And this is a real opportunity for them to, again, participate as much as they wish.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hildebrand, we got a little bit further off your question, but go ahead. I see you have your hand up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate the answers we got from both of them, but I want to just go slightly off the road as well with regards to the MCC, because obviously we're taking care of the seniors video there, but how about the sports community that want to watch the sports teams and can't come in and see anything work? We've talked about that slightly. Where is that program? To the Director of Recreation.
Ms. Van Ravensway?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, you will be getting a report at the next meeting. We have been working on getting live streaming in the gym, both gyms, as well as the ice rinks, and through a program where it is at zero cost to the town. And the parents, grandparents, whoever may watch the child perform their sports through a video streaming program that they will basically subscribe to. And we were we are also working with other area municipalities so that we have the same program going in across the region as much as possible. A full report is coming to you, I believe it's May 17th. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hildebrand?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think those are very valuable tools. I know we're not the sports scene that we have in the US where you can watch any team you want, but I know that, for instance, in Toronto, you can basically see from home your grandchild playing hockey in one of their facilities, or possibly basketball. So I think it's a real great move for our community to be involved in this program. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions on this agenda item? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, this vote will begin with Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin,
Yes.
and that carries. Mr. Mayor, this does bring us to our next item on the agenda, 10.2.3, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0068 snow clearing on the Steve Bauer Trail for information, and that Council approve the clearing of snow on the paved portion of Steve Bauer Trail between 1106 Line Avenue and Port Robinson Road during the winter season, and that Council approve the initiative in principle and refer the clearing of snow on the paved portion of the Steve Bauer Trail between 1106 Line Avenue and Port Robinson Road for consideration in the 2022 winter operation budget. Through you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on this agenda item? Councillor Hahn?
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to know how salt or sand would be applied. Is that part of this amount? Because it didn't mention anything about salt or sand, so it still could be very icy. I'm just wondering what's the situation there.
And for a question or for an answer, we'll go to Director of Public Works, Mr. Jason Marr.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That price would include the application of sand and salt. There are the price that we put in the report, the cost to do that work is based on 30 snow events. We don't necessarily put down materials every event. So this estimate does include those materials.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Excellent. My only comment, if I may, is I know this last season we didn't have very many snow events, but the ones we did have, received several emails asking for the town to proceed with the investigative part of it to see if next winter we could indeed do this. So definitely be a budget item when we discuss the 2022 budget, and I'm sure council will debate it then, as we should. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Stewart, do I see your hand? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm seeing hands tonight for whatever reason. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote will begin with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Mr. Mayor, that brings us to our next item on the agenda, 10.2.4, and I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0081, requirements to implement pre-application public meetings for information, and that Council direct staff to undertake the process for the preparation, review, and adoption of an official plan amendment to require pre-application public meetings, and that Council support the referral of hiring one full or part-time planner, subject to further analysis, for inclusion in the 2022 budget to support the additional after-hours work. Through you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions or comments on this agenda item? Councillor Olson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
I agree entirely with the idea of consultation with the residents and the locality, but I can't justify in my own mind the additional hire of another planner to solve this problem. Most of I think our developers, if they're really smart, they go through this on their own and do it on their own. And I think our requirements for hearing the residents, I think they work pretty well. So I'd be voting against this.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments questions on the agenda item? Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm the one who originally put this motion forward. And as far as I know, the intention was this didn't involve the planning staff. This was simply to be an informal meeting between the developer and the affected residents. And as far as I can see, the staff responsibility solely would be to provide the developer with the names and addresses of the people in the radius to be contacted. And then further from that, it would be up to the developer to locate and secure the venue, prepare the presentation, provide the AV equipment, prepare and print copies, and provide minutes of the meeting. I think I may have missed something there. So, and it's their responsibility to do that and to demonstrate to the planning department when they make application in what ways that they did take into consideration the concerns of the neighborhood. So I also would vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also, maybe I'd like to at this time ask the Director of Planning, Ms. Weens, any comments on this report and the asking of the additional planner if we do adopt this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. So we developed this report. It is, following the Burlington model in terms of having applicants do a pre-application public information meeting. In the Burlington situation, staff do attend those meetings. They do a presentation and facilitate discussion around the process and so forth. The developer is certainly there and they do the presentation with respect to what the application is about and the details around that application, but staff are there to answer questions on the current existing planning policies and those items. So that's why this report was prepared in that fashion. It was modeling it after the City of Burlington's process. In order to make it a requirement, we feel it's important to have an official plan amendment because there is no policy basis to require these pre-application meetings. Staff typically do recommend that applicants do those, that they do speak with their neighbors and the surrounding community prior to making an application so that they can understand what the concerns are and how they can address that. So that happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen all the time. And if council is wanting this to make this as a requirement to have it happen all the time, we feel it's important to have an official plan amendment in place so that we have that policy basis to require it. With respect to the additional staff resources, just quite frankly, staff currently are working to their limits. As indicated in the report, there is no budget for overtime, and staff do attend a lot of evening meetings and oftentimes they don't log that time, and that's not really a fair or reasonable expectation that we should have of staff. And so if they work that overtime and they flex their time and take time off in lieu, it just means that they're not in the office during the daytime hours or working at home during the daytime hours, and work isn't getting done. So it is a resource issue. It's not just that it's because of this application. It's a resource issue because we only have 2 planners that do development review, and there are a lot of applications, and that's the short story on that. Essentially this could be viewed as the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of really the staff resources, but there is a shortage in terms of staff resources currently. And so going forward, if we are going to be participating in additional meetings after hours, it does impact on staff's ability to be in the office and get their work done.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask any other councillors, I would like to comment that the pre-consultation meeting sounded a lot like the charrettes we had at the old arena site. And boy, I can't imagine the hours that went into those meetings. I mean, the public enjoyed them, I'm sure, but it sure seemed like a lot of hours put in by the planning staff to arrange the meetings and do the presentations and what have you. So I can really appreciate the time that staff would have to put into these meetings if they have to attend the meetings and discuss the planning applications. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hildebrand.
Agree, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the fact that pre-planning meetings and discussion between the developer and the residents is a great first step. I think if I was to make a motion, it would be to divide and separate the motion in 2 different packages, one for the requirements of a pre-planning meeting and the second one with regard to staffing. I think possibly we need to take some steps to start off with. And my step would be to start off with just seeing how successful we could be with the staff just providing the names and the addresses and having the developer have the requirement that he has to have this meeting with the residents and see where we go. I mean, that's without increasing our staffing levy to start with. So I guess I agree with Councillor Olson and Stewart at this point. Thank you.
Well, I'll ask for any more comments, but then we'll come back to your proposal there, Councillor Hildebrand. Any more councillors that have comments on this agenda item as it stands right now? Okay, so then Madam Clerk, Councillor Hildebrand, you're prepared to put that forward as a motion?
That's correct.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. A request is just a request to divide, so we can certainly divide the motion into what I'm hearing from Councillor Hildebrand is to 2 pieces. And just to make sure that I am clear, the first item would be the first 2 paragraphs with the last paragraph being separate. Is that correct, Councillor Hildebrand?
The paragraph that would be separate would be the council support the hiring of a 1 or full-time planner. Correct.
Yes. So unless there's any other debate, we can go ahead with doing the vote separately.
Any other questions on the item? Councillor Wink.
So just to make some comments with respect to the pre-application and public meetings, just so council is probably aware, but just to remind council that when we had this with the 4-unit apartment building on Pancake Lane, that particular meeting did not go over very well. There was a lot of arguing and a lot of finger pointing by residents and also by the developers. So not sure if this is a necessary step that we have to get to. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The one on Hurricane seemed to work a little bit better, but there was still a lot of dissensions with respect to that that application also.
Thank you, Councillor. Does Councillor Hildebrand need a seconder on this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a request to divide is simply that. It's just a request, and he does not require to have a seconder.
Oh, okay, thank you. My own feelings on this, Councillor Hildebrand, I respect you putting this motion forward. I'm going to vote against it because I can't see, if we're going to follow the Burlington protocol, then we should have planning members there. I sometimes wonder if we didn't have planning members present to maybe fine detail everything and maybe even act as a buffer between the developer and the residents. I can actually see a meeting like that turning into something that might not be productive. So I think if we're not going to follow the Burlington protocols and not have planners there, I won't be supporting this. Thank you. Councillor Hahn. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The Burlington model actually was in 2 stages. At first, they did it solely as a voluntary meeting between the developer and the residents. And then over time, when they saw how it was going and that it was beneficial, then they did make it mandatory. So they did take it in 2 steps. So like I'm in agreement with Councillor Hildebrand, saying that, we can, start this way. And then if it turns out that we do need to involve the planning staff, then we can take steps to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? I don't see any, so we'll call the vote. Please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just for clarity, I'm just going to read the motion out because it has been divided. So this is put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn, and it would be it resolved that Council receive report 2021-0081 requirements to implement pre-application public meetings for information, and that Council directs staff to undertake the process for the preparation, review, and adoption of an official plan amendment to require pre-application public meetings. That would be the first vote.
Okay.
If Council is ready, the vote would begin with Councillor Kaur.
No.
Councillor Olson.
No.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Wink.
No.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
No.
That motion then fails because we have 4 in the negative. That would then bring you to the second portion of that motion, which I'm not sure that it would stand on its own, and it would be, and that Council support the referral of a hiring of a full or part-time planner subject to further analysis for inclusion on the 2022 budget to support the additional after-hours work. As that motion has failed, I'm not certain that this would be going forward. I'm not sure if CAO Cribs had anything else to speak on that, or...
Yeah, we'll ask for Mr. CAO. Any comments on this?
Madam Clerk has correctly identified that this thing can't survive on its own, so that there's no need to have a vote on the second. It fails too.
Okay, thank you. All council members agree with that analysis? If not, raise your hand. I don't see any objections, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring us to item 10.2.5 on the agenda, which is a supplementary report regarding Park Place South. And this is brought forward by Councillor Hildebrand, and seconded by Councillor Stewart. And it reads, be it resolved that Council receive report 2021-0089 supplementary report, Park Place South, draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment application for information as it pertains to file numbers 26T19-02-20 and AM-08-20, and that council rescind the motion to reconfigure blocks 35 to 39 to allow for 4 units versus 8 units with a minimum 3 meter side yard as approved on March 22nd, 2021, and that council direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw for approval of the zoning bylaw amendment as proposed in report 2021-0052 presented to council on March 22nd, 2021 for council's consideration at the next meeting, and that council approve the draft plan of subdivision and conditions of draft plan approval as contained in Appendix A and B in Report 2021-0052, presented to Council on March 22nd, 2021. Mr. Mayor, for you for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any councillor comments or questions on this agenda item? Councillor Stewart?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I voted opposite to the way I intended to on the last one. I misinterpreted the first section of the vote where it was divided, and I'm wondering if I can have the opportunity to recall my vote. Is that possible?
Madam Clerk, on the last agenda item? It's your call.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that vote has been taken and we've moved on to the next item unless the CAO has any other parliamentarian advice to provide. I'm not certain how we would be able to bring this motion back.
Mr. CAO, with your years of experience?
I would also, I apologize, Mr. CAO. I would also note that should Councillor Stewart have changed her vote, it would have been for, yeah.
So three things are true here. One, the ultimate ruling can only come from the chair, that is to say his worship today. Two, procedurally, we have moved past that. But three, when there's a clear mistake of fact, what other councils have done in the past is take a vote on whether they'll waive their rules so as to not make it prisoner to reconsideration. So those are the only options that procedurally the vote's cast, but since Councillor Stewart is being candid in that she just had a slight confusion, that is mistake of fact, and that would be the only way I know to undo that, for you to waive your procedural rules, because otherwise to re-vote on that would require a 2/3 majority, and well, based on your vote, I'm not sure that's possible.
Okay. Thank you for that. But excuse me, Madam Clerk, what was the vote on? I thought it was. What was the vote on that? With Councillor Stewart voting no on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I will just go in order. Voted yes was Councillor Hahn. Voted yes was Councillor Hildebrandt. Voting no was Councillor Kaur. Voting no was Councillor Olson. Voting no was Councillor Stewart. Voting no was Councillor Wink. And voting yes was Mayor Junkin.
So if Councillor Stewart changes her vote, it still passes.
It had failed because there was 4 votes to no. If she changed her vote, there would be 4 votes to yes and 3 to no, and it would pass for the first vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I missed. Oh, I see. So wait, and I'm sorry, I'm confused here now. Councillor Hahn, Councillor Hildebrand, and let's say now Councillor Stewart will vote yes. That's 3.
So if I can help, I think Madam Clerk voted you as a positive, Your Worship, and you may have voted in the negative.
Yeah, I voted no on that.
Oh, my apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Where it doesn't change the outcome, then it's generally good courtesy, if I may suggest that, that council vote to waive its procedure to allow or recognize that the member's vote was different so that their record can accurately reflect their thought pattern and not be used against them in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CEO. So, Madam Clerk, please change the vote from Councillor Stewart from a no to a yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just making note of that now. Councillor Stewart, your vote will be reflected as a positive yes.
Okay, Councillor Stewart?
Yes, thank you very much for the consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Okay, now we can go on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. That does bring us back to the supplementary report for Park Place South. Did council wish for me to reread that motion into the record?
Yes. Any questions, comments on this agenda item? Okay, not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
I will start the vote with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Stewart is muted.
I'm sorry, can you move past me for now?
Yes.
Yes, I will move on to Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That motion fails. We have 4 in the negative. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 13 on the agenda, presentations and considerations of bylaws. And I have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that council for the town of Pelham, having given a due consideration to the following bylaws, do read a first, second, and third time, and do pass same, and that the mayor and clerk be and hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws, being bylaw number 4344, 2021, being a bylaw to appoint Melissa Grodowski, Officer 126, as bylaw enforcement officer, property standards officer, provincial offenses officer, and weed inspector for the corporation of the town of Pelham, and to appoint Sierra Ogden, Officer 119, as bylaw enforcement officer and provincial offenses officer for the corporation of the town of Pelham. Bylaw number 4345, 2021, being a bylaw to set the rate of taxation for the year of 2021. Bylaw 4346, 2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4068, 2019, confirming various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees of the town of Pelham, and to appoint members of the Pelham Public Art Committee, Schedule O. Mr. Mayor, for you for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions, comments on these bylaws 1, 2, and 3? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk. I turn to you.
The vote will begin with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that carries. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. And this is item number 17, resolution to move in camera. And the motion is, be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider a matter under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as follows. C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. And F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, one item. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality. And F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, two items. For the vote, I would begin with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes?
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you can just give me a few moments to turn off the recording and the live stream, I would appreciate that.